It's become almost common assumption that cash is fading away, right?
Mhm.
We're in this digital age, online shopping is booming, and you hear more and more talk about a completely cashless future. Some are even calling it a post-cash era.
Yeah, and if that's all you were hearing, you might think, well, the story was already over.
Exactly. But here's something really interesting to consider. Despite all that buzz around digital payments, cash is still incredibly important
Yeah,
to millions of people around the world. They really value having it as an option, and the idea of losing it, that's not something they want.
right,
And that's exactly where our focus is today.
right. So in this deep dive, we're looking at why consumers globally continue to rely so heavily on cash. And perhaps surprisingly, we're also going to explore why offering cash payment options online.
Online.
Yeah, online, like Paysafecash, could actually be a real revenue driver for online businesses.
Okay, so we've been digging into a fascinating white paper from Paysafecash. It's
Mhm.
titled All Eyes on Cash: Why Online Retail Should Keep an Eye on Cash. Mm-hmm.
And to start, we're really going to focus on understanding things from, well, your perspective, the consumer.
Okay.
Our mission today is simple. Understand why cash remains so popular and what its potential is in the online space, all based on the findings in this paper.
Sounds good.
Okay, so let's get into it. This paper kicks off by stating something pretty powerful. Cash is still the most widely used payment method globally.
Right.
Now, when you think about digital wallets and instant transfers, that might sound a bit unexpected, maybe.
It might, yeah. But the data really does support this. I mean, take Western Europe, for instance. Euromonitor International found that back in 2013.
Okay, a little while ago, but still.
Yeah, but even then, cash was used for a massive 68% of all transactions.
68%, wow.
That's a clear majority.
And it's not just old data either, right? There's a 2017 ING International survey.
Mm-hmm.
It asked people across various European countries if they could ever see themselves giving up cash completely.
And the result? Well, the numbers are quite striking. In the UK, which often feels like it's leading the way in online stuff,
Yeah, digital payments and all that.
79% said they would never want to go entirely without cash.
Never. Wow. Nearly 80%.
Yeah. And that desire to hold on to cash is even stronger in other parts of Europe. The same survey found Czechia, it was 82%.
Okay.
Austria and Germany, 84%.
Both 84.
And Italy, 85%.
Higher still?
Even in the US and Australia, where digital payments are super popular, right? It was still around 75 to 79% of people saying, nope, don't want to give up cash.
It really shows how deeply ingrained cash is, doesn't it? It's just part of people's lives.
Absolutely. And it's not just how people feel. Victoria Cleland, she was the chief cashier of the Bank of England.
Good.
She mentioned back in 2017 that the value of Bank of England notes in circulation had actually
Increase, not decrease.
increased by 10% in 2016. Apparently the fastest growth in 10 years.
Huh. Interesting.
And she also noted that even in the UK, cash was still used for 44% of all consumer payments that year.
So nearly half,
Yeah,
even with everything else available.
yeah. What's fascinating here is that even in markets with really developed digital payment systems, there's still this strong connection to cash.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the Paysafecash white paper points out that this preference for cash is even more significant in emerging markets.
Right. Regions like South America, Asia, the Middle East, West Asia, these are like the future growth areas for online business, aren't they?
Pretty much. And cash plays a huge role there. A PayPal study, for example, found that over half, 57% of consumers in Asia prefer to use cash.
57%.
Yeah. And in India, the expectation is that cash usage for online purchases is actually going to continue to increase.
Not decrease, increase.
Right. And the figures for Eastern Europe are particularly interesting. The 2016 study, I think it was by PPRO Financial,
Okay.
found that across Eastern Europe, a full 48% of all e-commerce transactions were done using cash.
Half of online sales paid in cash.
Yeah, often through cash on delivery, or paying when you pick the goods up.
Right,
And
right.
compare that to credit cards only used in about 20% of those transactions.
Wow. The country by country breakdown must really highlight this.
Oh, it does. Like Bulgaria, it was 65% cash versus just 20% card.
Okay.
Czechia, 67% cash compared to 13% card.
13. Very low card use.
Mm-hmm. Hungary had 60% cash and 30% card. And Romania, get this, a staggering 90% of online purchases were paid for with cash.
90.
90%, with only 6% using cards.
That just It paints such a clear picture, doesn't it? How dominant cash still is in so many places, especially for online shopping.
Definitely. But here's where it gets really interesting, I think. It's not just older generations or people in, say, developing economies who prefer cash.
Oh,
Even millennials, the demographic known for being super tech savvy, always connected.
yeah. They're using cash online.
They are.
Yeah.
That definitely caught my attention in the paper, too. It mentions a survey, Newzoo and CyberSource,
Hmm.
looked at European millennials and gamers. In France, Germany, and the UK, between 7% and 10% of them were still using cash on delivery.
7 to 10%. Okay. Maybe not huge, but still there.
But then in Spain and Italy, that number jumps to 20%.
20%.
Yeah, and prepaid cards are also pretty popular there, too.
So how does that compare to, like, mobile payment apps? Are those millennials using apps more?
Well, that's the interesting part. Mobile apps only had a market share of around 5% to 13% in those same countries.
So wait, in some places, cash on delivery is more popular among millennials than mobile apps?
Seems like it, yeah. Even among these, digital natives, cash is holding its own.
That's kind of surprising.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not just about how people pay now. There's also this clear interest in having more ways to pay online with cash.
Okay.
A 2017 Paysafecash study across 5 European countries found that over 20% of people surveyed were very interested in paying online with cash without needing an account.
No bank account, no card, nothing, just cash.
Right. And another quarter said they were interested.
Okay, so that's almost half showing some level of interest.
But what's really telling, I think, is that over 40% said they would definitely try out a genuine cash payment method online if it were available.
Over 40% would try it. That really suggests there's a significant demand, doesn't it? That's maybe not being fully met.
Absolutely. And a big part of that unmet demand comes from a very large segment of the population.
Yeah.
Those who don't have bank accounts.
Yeah, the unbanked.
Exactly. The World Bank's Findex report, cited in the paper, states that around 2 billion adults worldwide.
2 billion.
Yeah, that's about 40% of everyone aged 15 and over don't have a bank account.
Wow.
These are individuals who simply cannot use cards for online payments.
2 billion people. That's a huge number of potential online customers who are just excluded if only digital payments are offered.
It really highlights the limitations, doesn't it, of a purely digital system. The paper points out Southeast Asia and the Pacific Rim, over half the adult population doesn't have a bank account.
Over half.
Yeah. Middle East, it's around 14%. Latin America, a significant 51%.
51% in Latin America.
And what's also important is that younger people in these regions, the ones who are online users, are often even less likely to have bank accounts.
So the problem might even be growing among the target online demographic there.
Potentially, yeah. And this isn't just an issue in, far-flung economies. You might be surprised.
Even in Europe.
Even in Europe. The EU Commission estimated back in 2013 there were 30 million people in Europe without a bank account.
30 million.
And Victoria Cleland from the Bank of England, again, she estimated 2.7 million people in the UK are primarily cash users. And that number's actually gone up recently.
Gone up. Wow.
We also see higher rates in Eastern European countries like Bulgaria and Romania. Only around 60% of adults have a bank account there.
Only 60%.
And credit card usage is incredibly low, like 12% in both.
12%.
And even some Western European countries like Greece, Portugal, Italy,
Mm-hmm.
they have lower rates of bank account ownership compared to some neighbors.
Okay. And what about the U.S.? We hear so much about digital payments there.
Well, yeah, but the data from the FDIC, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, it shows around 9 million households are unbanked. That's 7%.
9 million households.
And another 24.5 million are underbanked.
Underbanked. What does that mean exactly?
It basically means they have limited access to traditional banking services, maybe rely on check cashing, stuff like that.
Gotcha.
So add those together. That's nearly a quarter of all U.S. households with pretty restricted payment options.
Nearly a quarter. That's significant.
And the paper raises another interesting point about a group we often overlook. Kids under 15.
Teenagers and younger kids.
Yeah. They often get cash gifts, right?
Yeah.
Birthdays, holidays. But they don't usually have easy banking options.
True.
Yet they are active online. Data from Germany shows millions of children and teens who would probably shop online more if they could just pay directly with that cash.
That makes sense. So not having a bank account is clearly a big reason people use cash or need to use cash. But the paper also makes a really important point. The preference for cash isn't just because people lack other options.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Germany and Austria are kind of the perfect examples here.
Oh, so.
Well, the vast majority of adults there do have bank accounts, they have cards,
Right.
yet they still have a really strong preference for using cash. It's a conscious choice for many.
So it's not just necessity, it's actual preference. Why? What are the underlying reasons for wanting cash, even when you have cards?
Well, the paper dives into some key factors, and right near the top are privacy and security.
Ah, the big ones.
Yeah, that 2017 ING survey again. It found over 80% of people in both Germany and Austria believe cash provides the best protection for their privacy.
Over 80%.
And that feeling that cash is the safest way to pay. It's common in many countries. Same survey showed 62% in the US and 56% in Australia also see cash as the most secure payment method.
That's a really significant level of trust in physical money, isn't it?
It really is. And it's more than just a feeling. A Marber Agent survey from November 2016, Germany, Austria, Switzerland, the UK.
Oh.
It found that data security was the most important thing for people when paying online. More important than how easy it was to order something.
Data security number one, more important than convenience.
A long shot, apparently. And what's also interesting from that survey, keeping track of expenses was also a high priority.
Expense tracking.
Yeah, 52.2%.
Mhm.
And people overwhelmingly associate using cash with having better control over their spending.
Well, that makes sense, right? You physically hand it over, you see it leaving your wallet.
Exactly. You feel it more. The paper also points out that almost 70% of people surveyed feel uncomfortable sharing their bank or credit card details online.
70% are uncomfortable.
Yeah. And because of this, a large number actively avoid it. Like 30.5% just don't want to enter credit card details online.
Okay.
And 41.5% refuse to provide bank account information online at all.
Wow. So a lot of people are just saying no to entering that info online.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And these aren't just minor worries, you know. The 2017 Unisys Security Index Global,
Unisys, okay.
it revealed a staggering 65% of consumers worldwide fear having their identity stolen or their bank records compromised.
65%. That's almost 2/3.
Yeah. And get this fear actually ranks higher than concerns about natural disasters or even threats to national security.
Wait, people are more afraid of online bank theft than national security threats?
Apparently so, according to that index.
Yeah.
It just shows how major a concern internet security has become for regular people.
Definitely. So when you put all this together, the privacy concerns, the security fears, the discomfort sharing details,
Right.
and you ask why someone might want to pay online with cash, a Paysafecash study found some specific reasons.
Okay, what do they find?
46% said it's because they don't want to share personal information.
Makes sense. Privacy.
37% specifically want to avoid revealing bank or credit card details.
Security focus there.
Yeah. And 32% simply believe that cash is the safer way to pay. Full stop.
Just fundamentally safer.
Mhm.
The paper also includes some really insightful quotes from individuals, which kind of brings this to life.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Well, there's Joseph from Austria. He talks about valuing the freedom and independence cash gives him.
Hmm.
He wanted to buy stereo components, but keep it private from their shared bank account, you know.
Ah, okay. Personal privacy within the household, even.
Exactly. And Anna from the Netherlands, she's a single mother, and she uses online cash payments specifically to keep really precise control over her expenses.
Right, that control aspect again.
Mm-hmm. And Alejandro from Spain, he pays his motorcycle installments with cash. Why? Anonymity and avoiding the risk of being hacked online.
These personal stories really drive it home, don't they? It's not just abstract percentages. It's real people with real reasons.
Definitely. And just to hammer home that security point one more time,
Yeah.
the Unisys Security Index Global found a massive 87% of people fear data theft and online fraud.
87%, that's huge.
Right. It is. And for consumers, security is just.
Mm-hmm.
It's a crucial factor when choosing how to pay online. Protection against fraud, misuse of data, that was a top priority for 65% in another Paysafecash survey.
Okay, so let's try and wrap our heads around what we've covered. If we summarize,
Oh.
we've seen that like 76% of Europeans don't want to give up cash.
Right. Huge majority.
Globally, around 40% of adults, that's 2 billion people, can only pay online with cash because they don't have bank accounts.
The unbanked, yeah. Massive potential market.
And maybe most surprisingly, people around the world are apparently more worried about their banking details being stolen online
Yeah.
than they are about war, terrorism, or natural disasters.
Just think about that for a moment. People are more worried about online banking theft than about major global conflicts or catastrophes. That fundamentally shifts how we should view payment preferences, doesn't it?
It really does. It really highlights how resilient cash is, even with all these new digital payment methods popping up constantly.
Hmm.
And while, yeah, cashless payments might dominate online sales figures right now,
Sure.
the paper makes a pretty compelling argument that the biggest potential for growth lies in those millions, maybe billions, of people who want to pay with cash online, but often don't have easy ways to do it.
So you've got this huge group, for all these different reasons we talked about,
Mm.
lack of accounts, desire for control, major security worries.
Mm.
They prefer or need cash,
Yeah.
even online.
Exactly. Which creates a real challenge, but also maybe a real opportunity for online merchants, right? How can they tap into this market?
And that's where solutions like Paysafecash come into the picture, as discussed in the paper.
Right. The reasons for this unmet demand seem clear now. No bank account or credit card for many.
Yep.
Others wanting better control over spending.
The budgeting aspect.
And this growing wave of security concerns making cash just feel like the safest option, especially if you're on like a public Wi-Fi network or something.
That's a good point, too, unsecured networks. So it really does suggest that maybe online cash payments are sort of on the verge of a resurgence globally,
Mm.
driven by these really fundamental consumer needs and preferences.
Yeah, maybe. And that brings us neatly to the Paysafecash tagline, which is
Pay safe, pay cash.
Pay safe, pay cash. Makes sense in this context.
Exactly. Paysafecash is presented in the white paper as a new alternative cash payment method. It's specifically designed for e-commerce.
So online shopping, ticketing, travel, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And it offers merchants a 100% payment guarantee.
Oh, interesting. So the merchant gets paid for sure.
Right. And it eliminates the risk of chargebacks, which is a big deal for online businesses.
Okay, I can see the appeal for the merchant. What about for me, the customer? How does it actually work? You said it was straightforward.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. Basically a three-step flow.
Mm.
First, when you're checking out online, you just select Paysafecash.
Sure.
Then you generate a barcode. It could be a QR code you save to your phone's wallet app, or you could just print it out. Got it. Barcode generated. Step 2.
Step 2, you use an online search tool, probably on their website or an app, to find the nearest Paysafecash payment point. Could be a local shop, post office, something like that.
Find a place nearby. Okay.
Venom.
And finally,
Step 3, you just go to that payment point, show them the barcode on your phone or the printout, they scan it, and you pay the amount in cash.
scan and pay cash.
That's it. That's it. Simple as that. The online shop gets notified you've paid, and they process your order.
Huh. So it really does bridge that gap, doesn't it, between wanting to shop online and wanting or needing to pay
Yeah.
with physical cash.
It seems designed exactly for that purpose, yeah.
Yeah.
To connect the digital world with that ongoing preference and need for cash.
Well, there you have it. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us into the, well, surprising resilience and ongoing importance of cash in our increasingly digital age.
Yeah, it's been really interesting. We hope this information has maybe given you a bit of a fresh perspective on consumer behavior and also the potential of more inclusive payment solutions. Definitely something for you to think about. How might these insights apply to your own understanding of commerce and technology? Maybe even your own payment habits.
And finally, here's a thought to leave you with. Given this really strong consumer preference for cash in so many situations, and that huge portion of the global population that relies on it entirely, what other innovative solutions might pop up to further bridge that gap between the physical world of cash and the digital world of finance?
Something to ponder.